Wednesday night prayer meeting let out early, and I walked into a nightmare I never saw coming. There were sounds coming from my bedroom, sounds that didn't belong there. My husband's voice, low and intimate, another man's laughter. And when I realized who that other man was, my church bag slipped right through my fingers. Everything inside scattered across those hardwood floors, keys jangling against wood, reading glasses skidding toward the wall. Those butterscotch candies I always tucked away for after communion, rolling in every direction like my whole existence had just exploded into pieces. Dolores Ann Mitchell, that's my name. 64 years on this earth, 41 of them spent as somebody's wife. Never once did I imagine I'd find myself crawling around my own hallway, gathering up scattered belongings, while betrayal unfolded just one floor above my head. But life has a way of blindsiding you when you least expect it. Let me take you back to how that morning began, ordinary as any other Wednesday. My eyes opened at 5:15 a.m., same as always. After 4 decades, my body's got its own internal clock. No alarm needed. First thing I did was pad into the kitchen and fix Harold his coffee. 2 sugars, touch of cream, served in that green mug, the one his army buddies presented him when he hung up his uniform for good. 41 years of mornings, and I still kissed that man's forehead before he woke, still believed in us. My shopping trip earlier that week had me excited. Found everything I needed for Sunday's pecan pie, those beautiful pecans from the farmer's market, real butter instead of that artificial substitute nobody should be eating. The whole menu was mapped out in my head. Jasmine and Terrence were coming after church, and I planned to spoil everybody with Harold's favorites. Smothered chicken falling off the bone, baked macaroni loaded with 4 different cheeses, collard greens swimming in smoked turkey flavor, cornbread that folks at Mount Calvary practically begged me to bring to every fellowship supper. When I pulled out of the driveway around 2:30 p.m. that afternoon, my Camry sat there looking peaceful. Harold's truck was parked right beside it. He'd mentioned something about fishing with Clarence, but I figured those plans must have fallen through. Good, I thought. Let that man rest. He'd been killing himself out in the yard lately, building me that raised garden bed I'd been wanting. Sister Dorothy hosted our prayer group that evening. We'd been working through the book of Ruth, and Lord, the irony of that hits different now. Whither thou goest, I will go. All that beautiful language about loyalty, about devotion, about standing by someone through everything. There I sat in Dorothy's living room, spooning up her banana pudding, discussing the meaning of true commitment. Meanwhile, back at my house, my husband was demonstrating exactly how meaningless those concepts were to him. Pastor Daniels ducked out early, said his back was giving him trouble. So we wrapped things up around 3:45 p.m., a good 45 minutes ahead of schedule. Said my goodbyes, climbed into my car, headed home. Something felt off the moment I turned onto our street. Harold's truck hadn't moved, which was fine. But there was another vehicle, Terrence's black Tahoe, tucked along the curb just far enough down that you wouldn't spot it from our front windows unless you were looking. Did I think twice about it? Not really. Terrence dropped by all the time seeking Harold's wisdom on one thing or another. Pops always has the answer, he'd say, flashing that smile, the one that won my daughter's heart 9 years back. The front door wouldn't budge, locked from inside. Now that should have told me something. Harold despised locking up during daylight hours. Made him feel caged, he said, some leftover anxiety from his time in Vietnam that he never wanted to discuss. But I just shrugged it off, dug out my key, the one with the little dove charm Jasmine gave me 6 Mother's Days ago, and let myself in through the side entrance. His cologne hit me immediately. Acqua di Gio, the bottle I'd bought for his birthday, but it smelled fresh, too fresh. Like he'd just applied it, and underneath that familiar scent, something else lingered in the air. Nothing I could name exactly, just different. The whole house felt electric somehow, like those moments before a storm breaks. My purse landed on the kitchen counter, right next to a jacket that stopped me cold. Terrence's jacket, draped over a chair, folded with a precision that reminded me of how I used to handle Harold's laundry. Why did that jacket bother me so much? Music drifted down from upstairs, soft but unmistakable. Slow R&B, the kind Harold used to play when we were young and in love before arthritis claimed his hands and rain started predicting itself through my aching knees. Marvin Gaye crooning about getting it on, our song. Then came laughter, not the kind you hear when someone tells a joke. This was different, hushed, personal. The kind of laughter that belongs behind closed doors. The kind that had no business floating out of my bedroom on a Wednesday afternoon. My feet refused to climb those stairs, just stood there frozen, one hand gripping the banister Harold had spent 3 weeks refinishing last spring. He'd worked on it every evening until it gleamed, knowing how much I treasured that original wood grain. My brain scrambled for innocent explanations. Maybe they were rearranging furniture together. Maybe something funny popped up on Harold's phone. Maybe. Then Harold's voice cut through my desperate rationalizations. Low, tender. Nobody's getting home before 4:30 p.m. We got plenty of time. And Terrence, my daughter's husband, responding, you certain about that? Last thing I need is Dolores walking in on this. Walking in on what? My church bag hit the floor. Hindsight's a cruel teacher. 41 years married to someone, you learn to read them. You notice when their gaze doesn't linger on you anymore. You feel the growing distance in bed, that cold expanse of mattress between 2 bodies that used to intertwine. You hear when I love you shifts from declaration to mere routine, but gratitude had blinded me. Grateful my daughter found herself a good man. Grateful Harold could finally rest after decades of breaking his body at that welding shop. Grateful we'd paid off the mortgage on this house, watched the garden flourish, constructed a life together piece by piece here on Peachtree Lane. Turns out I'd built my gratitude on quicksand. 8 minutes. That's how long I stood paralyzed in that hallway. I know because Mama's grandfather clock tracked every second. Same clock that had witnessed 41 years of celebrations and sorrows in this house. Watched it tick through 480 heartbeats of my world disintegrating. Those 8 minutes changed everything about what came next. Because I didn't charge up those stairs screaming. Didn't pound on the door demanding explanation. Didn't play the role of the hysterical wife from some television drama. No, I retrieved my scattered belongings, walked calmly to the kitchen, fixed myself a cup of that Café du Monde coffee with chicory, the taste of my Mississippi childhood before Charlotte became home. Then I settled into a chair at our kitchen table, the same table where Harold and I used to tackle Sunday crossword puzzles together, and I began to strategize. Because that's who Dollars Ann Mitchell is at her core. I strategize. I endure, I overcome. Mama used to tell me something I've never forgot. Baby girl, your dignity belongs to you. Nobody can snatch it unless you hand it over. You're a Hawkins, and Hawkins women don't surrender nothing. Sitting there with cooling coffee, I reconnected with the woman I'd been before Mrs. Harold Mitchell consumed my identity, before motherhood, before becoming Mount Calvary's celebrated pie baker. I remembered Dolores Hawkins, the child who marched into an all-white elementary school in 1966 while protesters hurled hatred and spit. The young woman who juggled 2 jobs to finance her own education when her parents' pockets came up empty. The educator who dedicated 35 years to shaping young minds, spending her own salary on supplies because she refused to let the system fail those children. That Dolores Hawkins hadn't disappeared. She'd just been sleeping. And now she was wide awake. Before continuing this story, you need to understand my roots. Not the person I evolved into, the person I was forged to be. Jackson, Mississippi welcomed me into the world in 1960. My father, Walter Hawkins, broke his back at the lumber mill, hauling and stacking timber through heat that killed lesser men. My mother, Cora, scrubbed floors and washed linens for wealthy white families on the north side, maintaining their gorgeous wraparound porches and rose gardens she could tend but never own. Material wealth escaped my parents, but they gifted me and my older sister Vivian something money couldn't buy: pride in who we were, an unshakable sense of our own worth, the understanding that we measured up to anybody, regardless of what society tried drilling into our heads. 4 years old when assassins took Dr. King from us. Too young to grasp why Mama wept at our kitchen table while Daddy held her, or why the kind man who spoke of dreams on television wouldn't be speaking anymore. But understanding came with age. Came with designated water fountains and inferior schools and watching Mama drag herself home after spending daylight hours on her knees in other people's houses. Yet something else crystallized too. I would carve a different path. I would make them proud. 1966 arrived and my parents made a decision that terrified them, enrolling their baby girl in Oakwood Elementary alongside white children. Just 4 of us black kids scattered among 350 white students. Hell doesn't begin to describe it. But every morning, Mama's hand wrapped around mine as she walked me through those gates, head high, shoulders back, and she'd whisper words I can still hear. Remember who you are, Dolores Ann. You belong to God himself, and nobody alive gets to tell you otherwise. Graduated at the top of my class, scholarship to Bennett College, chose education because I wanted to illuminate paths for other children the way my teachers had lit mine. Senior year at Bennett, that's when Harold Mitchell entered my life. Vietnam had just released him after 2 tours as an army mechanic, 25 years old, carrying a purple heart from some battle he'd never discussed. He'd returned to Charlotte to work alongside his uncle at a welding shop, trying to figure out what peace looked like after years of dodging death. Mount Calvary AME hosted a church picnic where our paths crossed. I stood behind a serving table spooning coleslaw for my roommate's aunt while he sat alone beneath an old oak tree, carrying the world's weight visibly on his shoulders. Something about that solitary figure called out to me. Maybe his haunted eyes. Maybe his military bearing that civilian clothes couldn't disguise. Maybe God simply whispering in my ear, "That one, he's yours." Plate of food in hand, I walked over. "You look like somebody who could use a good meal." His eyes lifted to mine, and I swear I watched darkness give way to light across his features. "Hungry doesn't cover it," he said. "Been starving for longer than I can remember." 4 hours dissolved beneath that tree. He shared pieces of Vietnam, the nightmares, the survivor's guilt, the chunk of himself still lost in Southeast Asian jungles. I told him about integrating schools, about believing education could transform society even when society resisted transformation. Sunset approached and he asked permission to see me again. "Yes," I told him, "you absolutely can." 7 months later, he drove me home to Jackson and endured 4 solid hours of my father's interrogation. Every question about intentions, history, and future plans, Harold answered straight and honest, meeting Daddy's eyes without flinching. After supper, we claimed the porch swing, crickets chirping back up to distant blues drifting from down the road. That's when Harold produced a small velvet box. "Dollars," he started, "I can't offer you much. Got work at the shop that keeps food on the table. Got nightmares that wake me hollering some nights. Got a studio apartment with a floor mattress and a hot plate for cooking. But my love for you, that's bigger than anything I've ever felt. Say yes and I'll spend every breath trying to deserve you." The ring inside was modest. tiny diamond that represented every cent he'd managed to save. Found out later he'd set aside $25 weekly for 2 months to afford that $163 ring. My answer was yes. August of 1983 found us exchanging vows at Mount Calvary AME. I wore Mama's wedding dress, taken in to fit me. Harold wore a thrift store suit we'd hunted down over the course of a week. 45 guests witnessed our union. Potluck reception in the fellowship hall afterward. Honeymoon was 2 nights in a Myrtle Beach motel. Wouldn't have changed a single detail. Understand this clearly, I loved Harold Mitchell with everything in me. Loved him through screaming nightmares about mortar fire. Loved him through whiskey-soaked grief for fallen brothers. Loved him through job losses that shattered his pride. Through every peak and valley across 41 years. And I truly believed he loved me back with equal measure. That belief cost me my education. Year 1 of marriage, I withdrew from Bennett just 4 months shy of graduation. Harold's PTSD had grown severe. Somebody needed income. Somebody needed to nurse him back. I decided both somebodies would be me. IHOP breakfast shift swallowed my mornings 5:30 until 2:30. Hospital cafeteria overnight shift consumed the darkness 11:30 until 6:30. 3 hours of sleep, then repeat. 3 years of that grind until Harold stabilized enough to hold down steady work. By then, exhaustion had buried my academic dreams. Scholarship long expired, bills demanding payment. But surrender wasn't in my vocabulary. Night classes at UNC Charlotte stretched across 7 years before I finally clutched that degree. 1991, age 31, I finally became what I'd always been meant to be, a teacher. Jefferson Elementary in East Charlotte became my home for 35 years. Black children, white children, Hispanic children, Asian children, every young soul who needed somebody believing in them the way adults once believed in me. My own paycheck bought classroom books. My own hours stretched beyond dismissal bells to tutor struggling students. Parent conferences became my chance to reassure overwhelmed mothers. Your child's going to be just fine. I've got them. That's my promise. And I kept that promise, 35 years of keeping it. Our daughter Jasmine arrived in 1988 after 4 miscarriages nearly destroyed my spirit. The moment that doctor placed her in my arms, I glanced at Harold, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Look what we made, baby," he whispered. "Look what we made." She became everything. We raised her in this house on Peachtree Lane, 3-bedroom fixer-upper purchased in 1986 for $58,000. Nothing fancy, but ours. Mortgage cleared in 2012, 3 years ahead of schedule because I taught summer sessions and Harold grabbed every overtime shift the shop offered. These walls witnessed everything. Jasmine's wobbly first steps across the living room floor. Prom photos captured on the front porch. Thanksgiving feasts, Christmas mornings, Easter Sunday gatherings. Laughter and arguments and reconciliations and passion and partnership, or so I'd believed. Because there I sat in my kitchen, sounds from upstairs suggesting meanings I couldn't accept, realizing maybe I'd never known these walls at all. Maybe I'd never known this life. Maybe I'd never truly known my husband. That ignorance was about to end. April 17, 1988, Jasmine Marie Mitchell entered this world at 6 pounds 9 ounces, crowned with black curls, her father's eyes staring up at me. Perfect. Ours. From that first moment, I understood I'd sacrifice anything to protect her, to provide the life she deserved. And Harold, I need to acknowledge this, Harold was a wonderful father. Whatever he became later, whatever he destroyed, those early years he showed up fully. Changed diapers without complaint. Paced the floors with a colicky infant, coached her basketball team, terrified teenage boys who came sniffing around, worked himself ragged ensuring she'd graduate debt-free while her friends drowned in student loans. "My baby starts life with a clean slate," he'd insist. "That's happening if it kills me." Both of us pursued that goal relentlessly. I picked up summer work, weekend tutoring sessions. We drove aging vehicles, wore clothes past their prime, skipped vacations entirely. Every spare dollar fed Jasmine's future. 2010 graduation, honors, UNC Charlotte, entry-level position at an accounting firm paying $52,000 annually. More than Harold and I combined when we were newlyweds. Pride doesn't capture what we felt. Harold squeezed my fingers as she accepted her diploma and murmured, "Our girl's gonna have it better than we ever did." She did. Better education, better opportunities, better everything. Except, apparently, better judgment. Terrence Hayes entered the picture in 2013, a client at Jasmine's firm who needed tax help for his small plumbing business. My daughter called me one evening sounding like a giddy teenager rather than a 25-year-old professional. "Mama, I met somebody." That dreamy sigh told me everything. "Tell me about this somebody." His name's Terrence, 30 years old, grew up in Detroit but relocated here about 5 years back to launch his company. Smart mama, funny too. And his smile, oh, his smile could light up midnight. 3 weeks later he appeared at Sunday dinner. Pressed slacks, crisp button-down, arms full of flowers for me and a bottle of bourbon for Harold. Easy on the eyes, 6'1", athletic frame, warm complexion, and that smile my daughter had described. More importantly, he showed respect. "Yes, ma'am," in every response. Firm handshake for Harold with proper eye contact. Compliments on my cooking followed by requests for seconds. After the meal, Terrence stayed to help me clear dishes while Harold and Jasmine claimed the porch. Without prompting, he rolled up his sleeves and started washing plates. We talked about his business ambitions, his dreams for the future. "Miss Dolers," he said, "I need you to know something. Your daughter means the world to me. I intend to treat her right, you have my word." Every syllable sounded sincere. Heaven help me, I believed him completely. 2 years of courtship preceded his proposal. He took her to Chimney Rock, dropped to one knee as the Blue Ridge Mountains glowed in sunset light, and asked her to spend forever with him. Her tearful yes still echoed through my phone that night. The wedding happened in 2015 at Mount Calvary. 120 guests. Jasmine glowing in a gown we'd found on sale at David's Bridal. Terrence looking handsome in his rented tuxedo. And Harold walked his baby girl down that aisle. When he placed her hand in Terrence's palm, his voice carried to the front pews. "You take care of my child, hear me? Your family now." Terrence embraced him tightly. "I will, Pops, that's my promise." Pops, that nickname stuck from that day forward, and Harold absolutely glowed whenever Terrence used it. "Finally got the son I always wanted," he'd announce, beaming with pride whenever our son-in-law came around. They settled into a townhouse in Mint Hill, 25 minutes from us. Jasmine continued climbing at her firm, 72,000 by 2017. Terrence's plumbing business generated around 50,000 annually after expenses. Comfortable if not wealthy. For several years, everything seemed ideal. Sunday dinners remained sacred. Terrence would spend hours helping Harold with home repairs. Jasmine and I would cook side by side, catching up on everything happening in each other's lives. Afterward, all four of us would settle on the porch watching fireflies dance while conversation flowed effortlessly. Those were sweet years. Contentment filled my heart. Daughter happily married, financially secure. My own marriage solid after 30-plus years. Harold retired from the welding shop in 2019. His body simply couldn't sustain that punishment anymore. Between his military pension and my teacher's pension, we had everything we needed. Life was genuinely good. But hindsight reveals the cracks I refused to see, tiny fissures I dismissed as nothing significant. Roughly 2 years back, spring of 2022, subtle shifts began. Jasmine's visits grew infrequent. "Work's insane right now, Mama," or "Big project keeping Terrence tied up this weekend." Monthly dinners stretched to every other month, then quarterly appearances. When she did show up, something was different, distracted, constantly checking her phone, slipping outside to take calls. Her laughter sounded hollow somehow, and whenever I asked if everything was okay, she'd snap at me. "Mama, quit hovering, nothing's wrong, you worry over every little thing." Work stress, I told myself. Marriage, growing pains, normal stuff. Then Harold started transforming too. Suddenly at 65, the man joined a gym. My husband, who'd never voluntarily exercised beyond the physical demands of his job, suddenly cared about treadmills and weight machines. "Doctor's orders," he explained when I questioned it. "Gotta protect my health," made sense. His heart scare in 2018 had frightened us both. Minor episode, but enough to confront mortality, so I encouraged the fitness kick. Thought it was healthy for him, but the changes kept coming. Gray hair disappeared beneath dye. New wardrobe appeared, tighter shirts, designer denim. Suddenly cologne mattered, grooming mattered, his appearance mattered in ways it never had before. "Who exactly are you trying to impress?" I asked one day, mostly joking. "Taking care of myself isn't allowed anymore, dollars?" Technically not a crime, but definitely different, and different unsettled me. His phone acquired a passcode. 41 years of open devices, his on the counter, mine beside it, neither of us hiding anything because we had nothing to hide, suddenly ended with a 6-digit barrier. "Scammers keep calling," he claimed. "Can't have them accessing my stuff." Reasonable explanation, I let it go. He started leaving the house constantly. Fishing expeditions with Clarence, veterans gatherings on Monday nights, coffee catch-ups with old army friends Wednesday afternoons. I welcomed his social renaissance. Retirement had isolated him too much and mental health concerns had nagged at me. "Good for you, baby," I'd say as he headed out. "You needed to get out more?" Meanwhile, Terrence began showing up during my absences. Weekday afternoons when I was volunteering or shopping, suddenly he needed Harold's advice about business matters, marital questions, life in general. "Boy craves a father figure," Harold explained. "His own daddy abandoned him young, he doesn't have anyone else to lean on." That tracked with what Terrence had shared early on. Orphan, sibling-less, raised in Detroit's foster system. Charlotte represented his fresh start, his chance at building something from nothing. I found it touching that Harold invested so much in our son-in-law, showed what a decent man my husband was, mentoring the boy like that. What a fool I was. 3 months ago, bank statement showed a $600 cash withdrawal, then another the following week, then another. "Harold, what's all this money for?" Barely glanced up from his newspaper. "Household stuff, tools and whatnot." No new tools appeared, but I didn't push, we could afford it. 600 here and there after 41 years together. I trusted the man. Then last month, a discovery that should have opened my eyes wide. Putting away laundry, I found a box hidden deep in Harold's closet, Nordstrom packaging. Inside lay a gorgeous watch, Bulova brand, price tag still attached. $525, also inside a card. "To my Harold, you make me feel alive again." My stomach dropped straight to my feet. Who was mind racing through possibilities. Another woman, some name starting with T, Tammy, Tanya, Teresa. That evening I confronted him. "Found a watch in your closet, card with it. Who's T?" Brief confusion crossed his face before he chuckled. "Oh, that Terrence gave me that for my birthday last month, remember? Been meaning to return it, way too expensive. Can't accept something that extravagant from the boy." Terrence, of course, T for Terrence. I felt ridiculous for my suspicions. Harold wasn't having some affair. He was simply being modest about an over-the-top gift from family. "Why haven't you returned it yet?" You know how I am about errands. True enough, Harold avoided stores like plague. That box could sit in the closet indefinitely before he'd deal with it. I dropped the subject. But standing in my kitchen now, upstairs sounds confirming my worst fears, that watch memory took on sinister new dimensions. T wasn't just Terrence's initial, it was a lover's signature. And that card, "You make me feel alive again," that wasn't appropriate for any father-in-law. That wasn't a gift of respect and admiration. That was a love letter. Sweet Jesus, how long had I been stumbling through darkness? How many red flags had I rationalized away? How many times had I accepted the obvious lie because accepting truth meant admitting my 41-year marriage was fraud? Coffee going cold in my cup, I finally forced myself to inventory everything I'd been avoiding for months. The cash disappearing, the locked phone, the gym transformation, the hair dye, the wardrobe upgrade, the fishing trips and veterans meetings, Terrence's weekday visits whenever I conveniently wasn't around, my daughter's distance, her tension, those phone calls requiring privacy. Oh Lord above, did Jasmine know? That realization struck like a physical punch. My own daughter, had she discovered her husband was sleeping with her father? Impossible. Jasmine would have come to me, she would have confided in her mother, wouldn't she? But then another memory surfaced. 3 months prior, Jasmine calling to borrow $3,500. Emergency car repairs, she'd said. "Mom, I hate asking, but Terrence has business expenses piling up and my car absolutely has to get fixed." I wired the money immediately. No questions, she was my child. But wait, Terrence drove his work truck everywhere. Why would they need $3,500 for Jasmine's car while also facing business expenses? Unless the money wasn't for any car, unless Jasmine was somehow involved in, whatever this was, unless she knew. I stood abruptly, legs nearly buckled, gripped the counter to stay upright as the room spun and my vision blurred. 41 years, 4 decades plus of marriage, partnership, building a shared existence. 41 years of standing beside this man through combat trauma and nightmares and unemployment and health crises. 41 years, and this was my reward. Kitchen clock showed 4:17 p.m. Prayer meeting sisters were probably wondering why I hadn't answered their texts. I'd muted my phone the moment that music reached my ears, some instinct demanding silence for what was coming. 13 minutes remained before I was supposed to walk through that door. 13 minutes before Harold and Terrence expected oblivious, trusting dollars to arrive home and continue her ignorant existence. That woman no longer existed. Something fundamental shifted during those 8 minutes of hallway paralysis. Something shattered inside me, and rising from those broken pieces, someone harder, someone sharper, someone infinitely more dangerous. My thoughts drifted to Mama. Cora Hawkins, who scrubbed wealthy white women's floors without ever allowing them to diminish her spirit. I remembered marching past those protesters in 1966, their hatred unable to touch me because Mama's hand held mine and her strength flowed into me. I thought about every single moment across 64 years when someone had underestimated me because of my blackness, my womanhood, my poverty, my anything. And I thought about how every single time I proved them catastrophically wrong. Harold and Terrence had apparently decided my future for me, decided what was best for me, where I'd end up, how I'd live out my remaining years. They thought they'd accounted for every variable. They'd forgotten one me. I grabbed my phone and opened Google, typed "Best Divorce Attorney Charlotte." Top result, Denise Warren and Associates. I clicked through to her website, black woman, 50 years old. Howard Law School graduate, specialty, high conflict divorce and asset protection. Her tagline practically jumped off the screen, "Defending what's yours," perfect, bookmarked immediately. Then I crept upstairs silent as a ghost and retrieved that box from Harold's closet, the watch, the card, photographed both thoroughly. Harold's nightstand drawer yielded bank statements, credit card records, phone bills, photographed everything. His laptop password hadn't changed since the day I set it up, my birthday. Absolute fool. I downloaded bank statements, investment records, every financial document I could locate. Footsteps in the hallway froze my blood. Laptop closed, slipped through the bathroom, down the back hall, descended silently to the kitchen, heart slamming against my ribs so violently I feared it might crack through. Terrence's voice floated down from above, "Better get going before she's back." Harold's response, "Same time next week, work. Can't survive that long without you. Tomorrow? Tomorrow it is." Sounds of kissing, my stomach revolted. A minute passed before Terrence descended the stairs. He grabbed his jacket from the kitchen chair, apparently not noticing I'd folded it differently, and headed for the back door. Paused, turned around, looked directly toward me, except I wasn't visible. I'd tucked myself inside the pantry. Door cracked just enough to observe. He left. 6 minutes later, Harold came downstairs, whistling. The man was actually whistling like everything was perfectly fine in his perfectly fine world. Walked right past my hiding spot into the kitchen, started assembling a sandwich. I watched my husband move through my kitchen, using my dishes, eating my food in my house after what he'd just done. A single thought crystallized, no more. This kitchen isn't yours, these dishes aren't yours, this house isn't yours, you aren't my husband, not after this. Waited until he went back upstairs, probably showering off the evidence. Then I emerged from the pantry, collected my purse, and exited through the front door, returned making plenty of noise. "Harold, I'm home. Be right down," came his voice from above. I went through the motions of unpacking groceries, acting normal, performing the role of the woman who departed for prayer meeting 3 hours earlier. The woman who still believed in her marriage, her husband, her life. But that woman had died in the hallway, and her replacement was done pretending. Sleep refused to come that night. Harold lay beside me sawing logs the way he'd done for 4 decades. That familiar rumble used to comfort me, proof he was home, alive, safe where he belonged. Now each snore grated against my nerves like sandpaper on raw skin. Darkness surrounded me as I stared at ceiling shadows dancing in the streetlight's glow, ghosts moving across plaster. My mind replayed everything on an endless loop. Marvin Gaye crooning, that intimate laughter. Harold promising they had time. Terrence worrying about me discovering the truth. Discovering what truth exactly? Suspicion wasn't enough. Fear wasn't enough. I needed concrete evidence before making any moves. My feet hit the floor at 2:15 a.m. Harold didn't stir. Once that man falls asleep, a freight train couldn't wake him. I crept downstairs to the kitchen and powered up my laptop. First stop, our joint checking account. The one we'd shared since 1983. The account where both our pensions landed every month, the one financing our entire existence together. 6 months of transactions scrolled across my screen. My stomach plummeted with each discovery. $600 cash, gone. Another $600, gone, again and again and again. Every single week for 5 months straight. Some weeks showed double withdrawals. Calculator app, quick math. $18,000 had vanished into thin air. I kept scrolling. Credit card charges jumped out at me, expenses I'd never authorized, never knew about. Sullivan's Steakhouse, $312, that upscale restaurant downtown. Harold claimed he'd been at a veterans meeting that night. Countryside Florist, $165. My house had seen 0 flowers. The Ballantine Hotel, $378. My hands trembled so violently I could barely navigate the trackpad. Then I spotted it. Nordstrom charge, $525. February 20th, Harold's birthday. The watch. My brain worked through the logic. Harold hadn't received that watch as a gift. He'd purchased it himself, or someone had bought it using his card and crafted that love note afterward. Either way, his birthday present story was pure fiction. New browser tab. Google search, how to find spouse's secret bank accounts. An article explained credit reports reveal all open accounts. We'd never bothered checking credit reports. Perfect payment history, solid credit scores, why would we? Except perfect payments and solid scores don't mean your husband isn't hiding money with his lover. I navigated to annual credit report.com. Harold's social security number lived in our important documents folder. I'd filed it there myself years ago. Entered his information, waited, the report loaded. There it was, plain as day, Truist Bank, joint checking account, opened 9 months prior. Co-owner listed Terrence L. Hayes. My husband shared a bank account with my daughter's husband. The room started spinning. I grabbed the table edge to anchor myself, forced my eyes to keep reading. Account balance, $26,000. $26,000 Harold had siphoned from our joint account. $26,000 of my pension, money I'd earned educating children for 35 years, now sitting in an account he shared with Terrence. Every instinct screamed at me to storm upstairs, shake Harold awake, demand explanations, hurl objects, shatter things, inflict pain matching what I felt. Instead, I screenshot everything. Created a folder on my laptop labeled casserole recipes. Harold would never look twice at that. Saved every piece of evidence inside. Then I dug deeper, phone records. Harold's cellular account login still used my birthday as password. Man hadn't updated a single security measure in 41 years. Arrogant fool. Call logs loaded. 3 months of data spread before me. Terrence's number appeared 53 times. Conversations lasting anywhere from 4 minutes to over an hour. Most happened during daytime when I was conveniently elsewhere. The text message logs destroyed me completely. Actual message content wasn't accessible through the carrier website, but volume statistics told enough of the story. 350 text messages exchanged in 30 days alone. 350. My husband communicated with our son-in-law more than he communicated with me, more than he communicated with anyone in his life. Sitting alone in my dark kitchen at 3:30 in the morning, numbers glowing on a screen confirmed everything I'd suspected but desperately wanted to disbelieve. Harold Mitchell was carrying on an affair with Terrence Hayes. My husband of 41 years was sleeping with my daughter's husband, and I'd been too trusting, too grateful, too blind to recognize what was happening in my own home. I closed the laptop, filled the kettle, made chamomile tea like that could possibly soothe anything. Sat at our table, the same table where we'd planned birthday parties and filled out college applications and completed tax returns side by side, partners in everything. When exactly had that partnership become performance? Tears came then, silent tears. Couldn't risk waking Harold with sobs, so I cried without sound, shoulders shaking, heart fragmenting, everything I believed dissolving like sugar in hot water. My phone buzzed at 5:15 a.m. Patricia Coleman's name lit the screen. 42 years of friendship, maid of honor at my wedding, hand-holder through 4 devastating miscarriages, the one person who knew me almost better than I knew myself. You awake? Her voice sounded strange. Couldn't sleep. Me neither. Something's weighing on me heavy. Need to talk face to face. Can I come over right now? Pat, it's barely past 5 in the morning. I know what time it is, dollars, please. This is important. Ice water flooded my veins. What's going on? Just let me come over. 20 minutes later, Patricia settled into a chair across my kitchen table. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She kept twisting her wedding band, nervous habit she'd had since college. Pat, you're scaring me. What's wrong? Deep breath. Dollars, 2 weeks ago I saw something, been wrestling with whether to tell you ever since, but you're my sister not by blood but by everything else. You deserve the truth. My heart stopped beating. What did you see? Harold and Terrence. Where? Huddle House on Independence Boulevard. Late night around 10:30, just finished my shift at the hospital, stopped for food, spotted them in a back corner booth. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Dollars, they were holding hands across the table, looking at each other in a way that wasn't family, that was something else entirely. Shock should have overwhelmed me, disbelief should have followed. Instead, relief washed through, I wasn't losing my mind. Someone else had witnessed the truth. What night exactly? My voice emerged steady, controlled. March 25th, Monday, phone calendar, March 25th. Harold claimed he'd attended a veterans meeting that evening. He told me he was at the VA, I said quietly. Patricia reached across the table, wrapped her hands around mine. Honey, I'm so sorry. When I first saw them, I thought maybe my eyes were playing tricks. But then Harold leaned over and kissed Terrence's hand, and I knew. I just didn't know how to tell you. You're telling me now, that's what counts. What are you going to do? The question hung in the air between us. Options cascaded through my mind. Confront Harold directly, scream accusations, demand he choose me or Terrence, though deep down I already knew which he'd pick. Tell Jasmine everything. Watch my daughter's marriage implode alongside mine. Break her heart the way mine was currently shattering. Run away, pack a suitcase. Flee to Vivian's memory in Savannah. Start fresh somewhere memories couldn't find me, or take the path I'd been trained for since childhood, be strategic, be intelligent, gather evidence, build an airtight case, ensure that when dust settled I remain standing. I'm hiring an attorney, I announced. Patricia nodded approvingly. Good decision, need me to make some calls, I know people. Already found one, Denise Warren, her eyes widened. Denise Warren, girl, she charges a fortune. I have money. Harold doesn't know about it, but I have it. 7 years earlier, ovarian cancer claimed my sister Vivian. She'd never married, never had children. Everything she possessed, $370,000, came to me. Harold knew the inheritance existed. He'd actually suggested keeping it separate. Put it in its own account, he'd advised. Better for taxes, don't mix it with our joint stuff, let it grow on its own. I'd followed his guidance precisely. Opened a Fidelity account in my name alone. Never touched the principal. 7 years of compound interest transformed that $370,000 into $520,000. Harold assumed the balance hovered around $400,000, maybe slightly more. He had no idea I was sitting on over $500,000, and North Carolina law protected every penny of it. Inheritances remain separate property as long as you don't commingle with marital assets. Don't add your spouse's name, don't use it for household expenses, keep it isolated and it stays yours. I'd done everything right, not because I anticipated needing protection from my own husband, but because Harold told me to. The irony was almost delicious. Monday morning, 9:30 sharp, I dialed Denise Warren and Associates. Warren Law, how may I assist you? I need a consultation with Ms. Warren regarding divorce proceedings. Certainly, may I have your name? Dollars Mitchell. And you're seeking representation for yourself? Correct. Ms. Warren has availability tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. Would that work? Tomorrow, less than 24 hours away. That works. Wonderful. Initial consultation runs $450 for the first hour. We accept cash, check, or credit card. $450, more than half my monthly grocery budget, not a moment's hesitation. Cash is fine. After disconnecting, something unfamiliar stirred in my chest, something that felt almost like hope. That afternoon, Harold announced he was heading to Lowe's. Whether that destination was truthful remained unknown and ultimately irrelevant. His absence gave me opportunity. I tore through that house like a woman possessed, every drawer, every closet, every hiding spot I could imagine. Harold's sock drawer concealed a receipt beneath his underwear. Zales jeweler, $1,400, men's gold bracelet. Harold despised jewelry, never wore anything beyond his wedding band. Who received that bracelet? His truck yielded more treasures. I used the spare key while it sat in our garage. Glove compartment contained a greeting card. Happy anniversary, year 1 down, countless more ahead. All my love, T anniversary. They were celebrating relationship milestones. Center console held a hotel key card. The Ballantine, room 612. No date visible, but dates didn't matter. Physical proof existed that Harold had taken hotel rooms with Terrence. Every discovery got photographed. Every image uploaded to a private Google Drive Harold couldn't access. Then I crossed a line I'd never imagined crossing. Downloaded a tracking application to Harold's phone. The technology terrified me in its simplicity. 5 minutes of device access, 1 app installation, hidden inside a folder labeled Utilities where Harold would never think to look. I waited until shower sounds emanated from upstairs, grabbed his phone from the nightstand unlocked because the fool trusted his own home, downloaded, installed, concealed, replaced, 4 minutes total. Now I could monitor every location he visited, compare his stated destinations against actual movements, verify every lie. Knowledge equals power. I was accumulating enough knowledge to bring down kingdoms. Dinner that evening featured Harold's favorite smothered chicken because maintaining normalcy remained essential. My phone buzzed mid-meal. Jasmine's name appeared. Hey baby, I answered, stepping onto the porch for privacy. Hey mama, got a minute? Always have time for you. What's happening? Silence stretched. Then, I need to ask you something, need complete honesty. My pulse accelerated. Did she know? Was this confession or confrontation? Go ahead, I said carefully. Has daddy seemed? Off to you lately? Oh God, she suspected. Off how? Just different, secretive. He's constantly with Terrence, and Terrence has been pulling away from me, coming home late, glued to his phone. Every time I ask where he's been, the answer is with your father. My baby girl. She sensed the wrongness but couldn't name it, couldn't accept what naming it would mean. Jasmine, are you asking whether I think Daddy and Terrence are involved with each other? Extended silence. Then barely audible, yes. Eyes closed, deep breath, decision made. Baby, come over tomorrow, leave Terrence behind, we need to have a conversation. About what? About everything, can you do that? Mama, you're frightening me. I know, sweetheart, but trust me, tomorrow, 1:30. Okay. After disconnecting, I remained on that porch a long while. My garden stretched before me, roses glowing in fading daylight. Pink and red and yellow blossoms I'd planted 17 years back. Tended through drought and freeze and neglect during my busiest years. They survived because I'd cared for them, paid attention, noticed problems early and addressed them before damage became permanent. I should have given my marriage that same attention. Too late for prevention now, time for surgery. Next afternoon found me on the 12th floor of an uptown Charlotte glass tower. Denise Warren's receptionist offered refreshments, water, coffee, tea. I accepted water. Hot liquids required steady hands, and mine hadn't stopped trembling since Wednesday night. 10 minutes later, Denise Warren herself emerged to greet me. Everything about her commanded respect. Tall, elegant, charcoal suit probably costing more than my monthly pension, natural hair cropped in a stylish afro, minimal accessories, wedding band and pearl studs, but those eyes sharp, penetrating, missing absolutely nothing. Mrs. Mitchell, she extended her hand, please come in. Her office matched her presence. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing Charlotte's skyline, mahogany desk, leather seating, Howard and Duke diplomas mounted prominently. Thank you for accommodating me so quickly, I said, settling into a chair. Of course, now tell me what brings you here. I'd rehearsed this moment during the drive over, prepared a careful explanation. Instead, what emerged was, my husband is sleeping with my son-in-law. Her expression remained completely neutral. Not a flicker of surprise or judgment, she simply nodded and lifted her pen. How long has this been occurring? Minimum 18 months, possibly longer. Do you possess evidence? I handed over my phone, Google Drive folder already open. Bank statements documenting $18,000 in cash withdrawals, credit card charges for hotels and restaurants, the joint Truist account containing $26,000. Phone logs showing 53 calls and 350 texts within 30 days, photographs of gifts, cards, receipts. Denise scrolled through everything methodically. When finished, she looked up with something approaching admiration. Mrs. Mitchell, this represents some of the most thorough documentation I've encountered in 22 years of practice. Excellent work. Thank you. Tell me about your assets. What do you and your husband own? House bought in 1986 for $58,000, now worth approximately $310,000. Mortgage cleared in 2012. His pension, $3,400 monthly between military and welding shop. My pension, $2,600 monthly from teaching. His 401k holds around $92,000. Mine holds around $48,000. Joint savings had $12,000 before he started draining it. Anything else? This was the moment, my secret weapon. I have a separate retirement account. Inheritance from my sister who passed 7 years ago. Harold knows it exists but has no idea of the current balance. What's the balance? $520,000. Denise actually smiled. And this account is solely in your name? No co-ownership, no beneficiary designation for your husband? My name only, never touched the principal. 7 years of growth completely untouched. Mrs. Mitchell, are you familiar with North Carolina's treatment of inherited assets? I researched it. If I kept everything separate, no mixing with marital funds, it remains my sole property. Exactly correct. That $520,000 belongs entirely to you. Your husband cannot claim 1 cent. Tension I'd carried for days released slightly. So he can't touch it? Not legally, not ever. She paused. Now let's discuss what divorce proceedings will look like for you. We talked for 2 hours. Denise explained North Carolina's equitable distribution laws, how marital assets get divided fairly though not necessarily equally, how my inheritance remained completely protected, how Harold's documented infidelity could influence settlement terms. Finally, she leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Mitchell, I'll be direct with you. This process will become ugly. Your husband will resist. Your son-in-law will resist. Your daughter is trapped in the middle. Are you prepared for that? I've spent 64 years being underestimated because of my race and my gender, I replied. I'm more than prepared. That smile reappeared. Then let's take everything he owns. $6,000 paid cash from my inheritance account, retainer secured, attorney hired, war declared. Leaving that office, I felt something I'd almost forgotten was possible. Power, control, strength. Jasmine's car already sat in my driveway when I returned home. She occupied the porch swing, looking small and terrified. Mama, her voice cracked on the word. I know, baby, let's go inside. Sweet tea got made proper Southern style, sugar dissolving in hot liquid before ice gets added. I set out butter cookies baked the previous day. Jasmine ignored them completely. Mama, I think Terrence is cheating on me. What makes you think that? Everything. He's never around, secretive about everything. Comes home smelling like cologne that isn't his brand. And we haven't been intimate in 5 months. 5 months, right when that joint bank account got established. Have you confronted him? Tried. He says I'm paranoid, imagining things, but mama, I know my own husband. Something is wrong. Baby, you're not paranoid, you're not imagining anything. Then what's happening? The moment had arrived. The conversation that would shatter my daughter's world in order to save her from drowning in lies. Jasmine, I need to tell you something. It's going to hurt, but you need to hear the truth. Fear flooded her face. Is Daddy dying? Cancer? No, sweetheart, Daddy's not dying, but your marriage might be. I told her everything. Wednesday's sounds from the bedroom, the bank account, phone records, hotel receipts, Patricia's eyewitness account at Huddle House, the anniversary card. With each revelation, Jasmine's complexion went paler. By the time I finished, violent tremors shook her entire body. No, the word emerged as whisper. That's not Terrence wouldn't, Daddy wouldn't. She launched from her chair so forcefully it crashed backward. You're lying, you're making this up because you're jealous. Daddy has friends outside this house. Jasmine, Terrence loves me, he married me, he chose me. Sweetheart, I know how hard, her voice escalated to screaming. You're telling me my husband is having sex with my father and you call that hard? She was breaking apart before my eyes, sobbing, raging. Everything inside her shattering simultaneously. I reached for her and she shoved me away. Don't, if any of this is true, why didn't you tell me immediately? Why did you let me keep living in that house with him? I only just discovered, you've known for days, investigating, photographing, hiring attorneys, and your own daughter didn't deserve to know? Guilt pierced me. She was right. I should have told her first thing, but I'd wanted to protect her. Wanted certainty before destroying her heart. Jasmine, I'm sorry, I was trying to what? Control everything the way you always do, make every decision without consulting anyone. You've never trusted me to handle my own life. That's not fair. Fair, you want to discuss fairness. My husband is screwing my father and you're lecturing me about fairness? The back door swung open. Harold stepped inside, returning from wherever he'd actually been. One glance at Jasmine's tear-ravaged face and my expression told him everything had changed. What's going on? He tried sounding innocent. Jasmine turned on him. Tell me the truth, Daddy. Are you sleeping with Terrence? Color drained completely from Harold's face. What, baby, are you sleeping with my husband? Yes or no? Silence answered, and in that silence, Jasmine received confirmation. The sound she made, I'd never heard anything like it. Not quite scream, not quite sob, something primal, something broken at its foundation. How could you? Barely a whisper now. How could you do this to Mama, to me? Harold stepped toward her. Baby girl, let me explain. Don't call me that. Don't you dare call me that. Jasmine, please, how long what? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? Rage I'd never witnessed burned in my daughter's eyes, pure fury trembling through her frame. Harold's shoulders collapsed. 18 months. Jasmine staggered like she'd taken a physical blow. I caught her before she hit the floor. 18 months. She repeated it like she couldn't process the words. Our anniversary was last month. You wished us happiness, brought flowers, said you loved me. I do love you. Shut up. The scream tore from her throat. Don't say you love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have destroyed my marriage. If you loved me, you wouldn't have broken Mama's heart. If you loved me, you would have acted like my father instead of competing for my husband. Front door opened. Terrence walked in. He froze immediately, taking in Jasmine's devastated face, me supporting her weight, Harold looking like a man awaiting execution. What's happening? But his expression said he already knew. Jasmine pulled away from me, walked toward her husband. Did you ever love me? Quiet, deadly calm, Terrence couldn't meet her eyes. Jasmine, did you ever love me, or was I just convenient access to him? It's not like that. Then explain it, Terrence. Explain marrying me while planning to bed my father. We didn't plan anything. Oh, so it just happened? You accidentally tumbled into bed together repeatedly for 18 months? Finally, he looked at her. I love him, Jasmine, never meant to, never wanted to, but I do. Those words poisoned the air. Jasmine turned to me, face empty, eyes hollow. You were right, Mama, about everything. You're always right. Then she walked out the door, got in her car, drove away. I stood in my kitchen staring at the two men who had demolished everything I'd spent 4 decades building. Get out, barely above a whisper. Dollars, Harold started. Get out of my house. This is my house too. No, this is the house I transformed into a home. You just occupied space. Now get out before I call police and report $18,000 stolen from our joint account to finance your affair. Terrence grabbed Harold's arm. Come on, let's go. They left and I stood alone. The remainder of that day exists in fragments. Patricia came over after I called. She held me while I finally truly wept, deep, wrenching sobs I'd suppressed for days. She forced food into me, though I can't recall what. Eventually she left and silence swallowed the house. I sat on the couch until darkness fell, didn't bother with lights, just watched shadows consume the walls. At some point, maybe 10:30, maybe midnight, I started wandering room to room. Every space held memories. Living room where Jasmine took those first wobbly steps, Harold and I cheering wildly. Kitchen where thousands of meals and conversations had unfolded. Bedroom where we'd made love and plans and a life together. Everything felt poisoned now, contaminated, like beauty had been performance and I'd been the only one who didn't know the script was fake. Eventually, I found myself in Jasmine's childhood room. We'd preserved most of it after she moved out. Twin bed with lilac comforter. Bookshelf stuffed with young adult novels. Desk where 12 years of homework got completed. A photograph sat on the dresser. High school graduation. Jasmine in cap and gown beaming. Harold and me flanking her, arms wrapped around her shoulders. All three of us grinning like the world belonged to us. Had any of that joy been real? Had Harold been performing even then? Sitting on my daughter's childhood bed, I catalogued every sacrifice I'd made for this family. 4 months from Bennett graduation. 3.9 GPA, bright future waiting, but Harold returned from Vietnam shattered and somebody needed to provide income while somebody else nursed him back to functionality. I volunteered for both roles, dropped out, worked 2 jobs, buried my dreams. Harold's second job loss, heavy drinking consuming him, 3 months behind on mortgage payments. Mama offered money, but only if I left him. That man will drag you under dollars, you have a child to consider. But I'd made vows. For better or worse, I accepted her money and stayed, nearly killed myself keeping our house. Harold fell from scaffolding, leg shattered in 3 places, 9 months of disability. I grabbed every tutoring job available, taught summer school, worked evenings and weekends until exhaustion became my permanent state. Harold's heart scare. Minor episode, doctors said, but terrifying enough. Medical recommendation, lifestyle changes, stress reduction, possibly early retirement. So I retired early too, accepting $750 less monthly for the rest of my life, just to be home caring for him. Every single time I chose him, chose us, chose this family, and my reward, betrayal, deception, replacement by a man young enough to be my son who happened to marry my daughter. Something fractured inside me that night. Not just my heart that had been splintering for days, something deeper, some core belief about how the world operated. I'd believed sacrificial love got rewarded with loyalty, believed marriage vows meant something sacred, believed 41 years of partnership accumulated into something unbreakable, wrong on every count. Around 3:30 a.m. I retrieved the photo album from my nightstand drawer, our history and images. Wedding day, Harold in his thrift store suit, me in Mama's altered dress. We looked so young, so hopeful. Baby Jasmine in Harold's arms at the hospital, tears streaming down his cheeks. Nursing her in the rocking chair. Christmas mornings, birthdays, vacations we couldn't really afford. Ordinary Sundays transformed into treasures. A lifetime documented in photographs. Had any moment been genuine? Or had I constructed a fantasy and inhabited it alone? Album returned to its drawer. I reached for the other drawer, Mama's Bible. Cora Hawkins carried this book every day of her adult life, through Jim Crow laws and civil rights marches and grinding poverty and personal tragedy. Leather worn soft from decades of handling, pages marked with her handwritten reflections. I opened randomly. My eyes landed on Proverbs 31:25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Strength, dignity. I thought about Mama scrubbing wealthy white women's floors, never once allowing their superiority complexes to diminish her spirit. About walking me past hateful protesters in 1966, her hand gripping mine, her courage flowing into my frightened child's heart. About surviving everything existence hurled at her while still raising 2 daughters who understood their worth. Mama never surrendered, not once, and I carried her blood in my veins. I closed the Bible, walked to the window. Dawn was breaking, painting my garden in soft gold light. Those roses I'd planted 17 years back bloomed defiantly, survivors of drought and freeze and seasons of neglect. They endured because they developed deep roots, because they were strong. I had deep roots too, generations of them. Women who survived slavery and segregation and every form of oppression America could invent. Women who refused to be erased. Harold Mitchell and Terrence Hayes would not destroy me, would not ship me off to some nursing home while they built their dream life on my foundation. Would not teach my daughter that such treatment was acceptable or normal. No, I would fight and I would win, sun fully risen now. Wednesday morning, 5 days since that bedroom discovery. 5 days since my old life ended, time to begin constructing the new one. I grabbed my phone, dialed Denise Warren's emergency line. She answered on ring 3, voice alert despite the early hour. Mrs. Mitchell, everything all right? File the paperwork, I said. Today, I want him served by tomorrow. Brief pause. You're certain? I've never been more certain of anything in my 64 years. Understood, let's destroy him. I hung up, made coffee, watched morning light spread across my garden. Today marked the beginning of reclaiming my life. And Harold Mitchell was about to discover what happens when you underestimate a black Southern woman who has finally decided enough is enough. Denise Warren operated with military precision. Thursday by noon, divorce paperwork stood complete. By 3:30 that afternoon, a process server positioned himself outside the veterans' coffee shop Harold frequented every Thursday. I monitored his location through the tracking app, watched that little dot sit stationary at his usual haunt. 3:47 p.m., text notification from Denise. Papers delivered, he's been served. I occupied my kitchen when it happened. Same kitchen where everything had crystallized 5 days prior. A sandwich sat untouched before me while I gazed through the window at my garden, thoughts drifting between everything and nothing. 30 seconds later, my phone erupted, Harold's name flashing. I let it ring through to voicemail. He called again and again, 6 attempts in 10 minutes, then text messages started flooding in. Dollars, please answer, we have to discuss this. You can't just discard 41 years. Pick up the phone. I flipped the device face down, sipped my sweet tea. Let him marinate in uncertainty. An hour passed before pounding rattled my front door. Peephole revealed Harold's face contorted between panic and fury. Dollars, open up, we need to talk. I remained seated. I know you're home, your car's right there. I returned my attention to financial documents Denise had requested, spreading them across the kitchen table. 12 minutes of pounding before silence finally returned. Good riddance. That weekend, Denise and I spent 5 hours dissecting every aspect of our financial life together. Current market value on the house sits around $310,000, she noted on her legal pad. Original purchase in 1986 at $58,000. Mortgage satisfied in 2012. Clearly marital property requiring division. I want the house, I stated flatly. Could prove challenging. It represents your largest shared asset. Courts might require you to purchase his equity share, approximately $155,000. I can manage that. Denise glanced up. You have access to that kind of money? I have access to more than that. Her smile widened. Ah yes, your inheritance. Let's examine that account thoroughly. I produced my fidelity statements, 7 years of careful growth. Initial deposit, $370,000. Current value, $520,000. Denise studied the paperwork carefully. You maintained complete separation, no intermingling whatsoever. Original funds came directly from your sister's estate. February 2017, Vivian left me everything she had. And you never supplemented this account with marital income, never withdrew funds for household purposes? Not once. Harold actually suggested keeping it isolated. Better tax treatment, he said. I followed his advice and let it compound. Intelligent man, Denise observed dryly. Advertently protected your assets while remaining oblivious. This $520,000 belongs exclusively to you. He possesses zero legal claim. So I can use it to buy him out of the house? Absolutely. My recommendation would be offering $155,000 for his equity share, exactly half the current value. You retain your home. He receives cash for starting over. What about remaining assets? His 401k holds approximately $92,000. Yours holds around $48,000. North Carolina mandates equitable distribution, so we'll likely split the combined total. Each party ends up with roughly $70,000 in retirement savings. Joint savings contained $12,000 before his withdrawals began. We'll demand complete accounting of where those funds went. I presented my evidence collection, the secret truist account with Terrence, cash withdrawals, hotel charges. He diverted $26,000 in marital funds into an account shared with his affair partner, Denise summarized. Classic dissipation of marital assets. We'll argue he owes you reimbursement for half, $13,000. Numbers were aligning favorably, but I wanted more than financial victory. What about his pension? I asked. Military pensions are divisible in divorce. You'd be entitled to a portion based on marriage duration. 41 years married while he served how long? 5 years, 1968 through 1973. Then military pension constitutes minimal value. Bulk of his retirement income derives from the welding shop pension earned entirely during marriage. You could pursue a portion, though the fight might exceed the reward. She set down her pen. Mrs. Mitchell, let me ask directly, what do you truly want from this divorce? I considered carefully. What did I want? My house, the home I'd created, the garden I'd cultivated, the space filled with 41 years of love and labor. Financial security, enough resources to live comfortably independent of Harold, independent of anyone. For Harold to fully comprehend what he'd forfeited. And my daughter, I wanted Jasmine back. I want my house, I said. I want my inheritance protected. I want reimbursement for what he stole. And I want the whole world knowing exactly why this marriage ended. Denise's smile turned razor sharp. Then we'll make certain you receive all of that. Over the following week, Denise's team mobilized. Subpoenas flew for bank records, phone records, credit card statements. A forensic accountant began tracing every dollar Harold had redirected, and she brought in a private investigator. Jerome Patterson, former detective now handling private cases, specialized in infidelity investigations and hidden asset searches. Mrs. Mitchell, he said during our initial meeting, I'll be exceptionally thorough. Surveillance on your husband, documentation of his movements, photography of everyone he contacts. I'll also conduct comprehensive background research on Terrence Hayes. People sometimes aren't who they claim to be. Do whatever's necessary, I instructed. 7 days later, Jerome requested an urgent meeting. Mrs. Mitchell, we need to talk. I've uncovered something significant. We met at a South Park coffee shop. Jerome slid a manila folder across the table. Terrence Hayes is a fabricated identity. Blood turned to ice in my veins. Explain. Birth name, Terrence Johnson. Legal name change occurred in 2010 following release from Stateville Correctional Center in Illinois. Prison, I could barely form the word. What crime? Fraud and embezzlement. He worked as bookkeeper for a landscaping company in Detroit. Over 3 years, he systematically stole approximately $195,000. When they caught him, most had already been spent. He served 4 years, received parole in 2010, changed his identity, relocated to North Carolina. Breathing became difficult. Does Jasmine know? Highly unlikely. Marriage license applications require criminal history disclosure. He almost certainly lied. What about his family? He claimed both parents were deceased. His mother, Barbara Johnson, lives in Detroit, very much alive. Father abandoned the family when Terrence was young, current whereabouts unknown. His mother severed contact after his arrest. Apparently he'd stolen from her as well. Every word Terrence had spoken to us was fabrication, every single word. There's more, Jerome continued. I've been surveilling your husband and Mr. Hayes, or Mr. Johnson, as he was born. Last week they visited a small business loan office together. They're seeking financing for a welding and plumbing company. Loan application requests $200,000. The exact amount Terrence had stolen in Detroit, not coincidental. What's their strategy? I demanded. Based on loan documentation I obtained, don't ask my methods, they're planning to use proceeds from selling your marital home as down payment. They estimated your husband's equity share around $155,000. Combined with funds in their joint account, they'd have sufficient capital for the SBA's 20% requirement. They were orchestrating my future, disposing of my house, funding their new life with my resources. They submitted this loan application before divorce papers were served, Jerome added. Your husband had already plotted his departure. This wasn't impulsive, Mrs. Mitchell. This was calculated betrayal. I sat in that coffee shop clutching a folder documenting Terrence's criminal history, feeling something cold and hard crystallize inside me. They believed themselves clever, believed they'd anticipated every contingency. They had no concept of who they were dealing with. Denise filed emergency motions to freeze all marital assets. Within 48 hours, Harold lost access to joint accounts, couldn't secure loans against property, couldn't execute any financial transaction without court authorization. I imagined his expression when ATM machines rejected his card, when bank representatives explained accounts were frozen pending divorce proceedings. That same day I contacted Jasmine. She'd been staying with her friend Keisha since the confrontation. 7 days of ignored calls, but this time she answered, Mama. Her voice sounded hollow, broken. Baby, I need to see you. There's something about Terrence you need to know. I don't want to hear anything about him, don't want to think about him. Jasmine, this is crucial. It concerns his past, his authentic past. Silence stretched. What do you mean authentic past? Come over, please, I'll explain everything. An hour later, Jasmine occupied a chair at my kitchen table. She looked devastated, dark circles beneath her eyes, hair pulled back carelessly. Wearing sweatpants and an old Bennett college t-shirt of mine, I poured sweet tea, sat across from her. Sweetheart, Terrence deceived you about everything. I know he deceived me about Daddy. No, I mean his entire existence, his name, his family, his history. I pushed Jerome's folder toward her. Jasmine opened it, started reading. I watched confusion transform to shock, transform to horror. He has a criminal record, whispered disbelief. Yes, he stole money from his employer. Yes, his mother is alive. Yes, he changed his name to hide his past. Yes, Jasmine looked up, tears streaming. I married a convicted felon, a professional liar. I didn't even know his real name. Baby, you couldn't have known. He concealed everything masterfully. I'm a CPA, Mama. Background verification is literally my profession. How did I miss this? Because you loved him, and love makes us want to believe. Her head dropped to the table. Sobs racked her body, deep, wrenching grief. I moved beside her, held her tight, stroked her hair the way I'd done when she was small and nightmares woke her. I'm so stupid, she wept. Completely stupid. You're not stupid, you're wounded. Those are entirely different things. Eventually, the sobs subsided enough for her to sit upright. What do I do now, Mama? File for divorce immediately, then press fraud charges. He lied on your marriage license application. Will that accomplish anything? Denise believes it will. Your marriage might even be declared void, legally invalid from the start. Jasmine wiped her eyes. I want him gone, completely erased from my life. Then that's exactly what we'll accomplish. 2 days later, Terrence received his own stack of legal papers, divorce filing, fraud complaint with the district attorney's office, notification of an outstanding warrant in Illinois for parole violation. He was required to remain in state but had relocated to North Carolina without authorization. Terrence Hayes, or Terrence Johnson, or whoever he truly was, suddenly faced problems far beyond a failed marriage. The justice system was coming for him. Harold attempted calling me 19 times that day. Text messages flooded in, begging me to withdraw charges against Terrence. He's a good man who made mistakes. You're ruining his life. Please, dollars, show some compassion. I blocked his number. The final reckoning arrived 2 weeks after I'd initiated divorce proceedings. Denise arranged a settlement conference, opportunity for both sides to negotiate terms before trial became necessary. Wednesday afternoon, her office. I arrived 15 minutes early wearing my finest church suit. Navy blue with gold buttons, the same ensemble I'd worn accepting my Teacher of the Year award in 2013. I wanted to project power, command, control. Harold appeared with his attorney, Richard Garrison, middle-aged white man who looked distinctly uncomfortable the moment he spotted Denise. Terrence attended as well, accompanied by a public defender who appeared freshly graduated from law school. Jasmine sat beside me at the conference table, our hands intertwined, united front. Denise initiated proceedings. Gentlemen, let me establish complete clarity regarding this situation. My client possesses documented evidence of an extended affair between Mr. Harold Mitchell and Mr. Terrence Hayes, or more accurately, Mr. Terrence Johnson. She paused for effect. She has evidence of marital asset dissipation exceeding $26,000. She has evidence of fraud, deception, and betrayal spanning at minimum 18 months. Richard Garrison attempted interruption. Ms. Warren, my client, I haven't finished. Ice-coded every syllable. Your client extracted funds from a joint account, funds belonging equally to my client, and used them financing his affair. He established a secret bank account with his paramour. He developed plans to sell the marital residence and utilize proceeds, launching a business with that same paramour, all while my client believed she existed within a loving, committed marriage. She slid documentation across the table. Here is our offer. Mrs. Mitchell retains the house. She purchases Mr. Mitchell's share for $155,000, payable from her separate inheritance property. Mr. Mitchell reimburses Mrs. Mitchell for half of $26,000 transferred to the joint account with Mr. Hayes. That equals $13,000. Retirement accounts split equitably, each party receiving approximately $70,000. Mr. Mitchell receives zero spousal support, zero alimony, nothing. Harold's face flushed crimson. That's everything. You're taking absolutely everything. No, I said quietly. You surrendered everything the moment you chose to sleep with my daughter's husband. Dollars, please don't speak my name, don't beg, don't pretend concern matters now. Terence spoke for the first time. Ms. Dollars, I understand you're upset. Upset? Jasmine cut him off viciously. You believe she's merely upset? You destroyed our entire family. You lied about your identity. You used me to access my father. And you think upset captures this? Jasmine, I never intended, save your excuses, I've already filed for divorce. And interesting news, the district attorney finds your marriage license lies fascinating. Your parole violation intrigues them as well. And that loan fraud scheme you've been developing with my father, they're very curious about that. Terrence's public defender leaned over, whispering urgently. Additionally, Denise continued, if Mr. Mitchell rejects this settlement, we proceed to trial. And trial transforms everything into public record. Every affair detail, every text message, every hotel receipt, every deception. The church will know, the community will know, everyone will know precisely who Harold Mitchell is and what he did. Harold appeared physically ill. Richard Garrison cleared his throat. Ms. Warren, this approach seems excessively aggressive. Mr. Garrison, your client committed adultery and stole marital assets. North Carolina law provides grounds for fault-based divorce. My client demonstrates remarkable generosity, offering any settlement whatsoever. She could demand significantly more. There's nothing more available to take. That's when I deployed my final weapon. I reached into my purse, retrieved my fidelity statements, placed them directly before Harold. Actually, I said calmly, there is. Harold lifted the papers. His eyes widened progressively as he absorbed the numbers. $520,000, I stated. Vivian's estate, invested 7 years ago in an account bearing only my name, an account you instructed me to maintain separately. His complexion went ghostly white. You have over $500,000? I do. You never told me? You advised keeping it separate. I followed your guidance. And because I followed it, every penny belongs exclusively to me. You receive nothing. I watched him perform mental calculations, watched comprehension dawn regarding what he'd forfeited. He'd abandoned a wife possessing over $500,000 for a convicted felon, for a con artist facing probable prison time within a year. So here's how this unfolds, I continued. You sign these documents, you accept your $155,000 and your retirement account share. You exit my house and you exist with the consequences of your decisions. Dollars, do you comprehend what I sacrificed for you? My voice rose. I abandoned college 4 months before graduation. I worked 2 jobs while you recovered from Vietnam. I stayed when you were drinking yourself toward death. I nursed you through unemployment and injuries and heart problems. I gave you 41 years of my life, trembling now but refusing to stop. And your repayment, sleeping with my son-in-law. Stealing my money, planning to warehouse me in a nursing facility so you could establish domestic bliss with a man who fabricated his entire existence. I rose from my chair. But you miscalculated something critical, Harold. You forgot who I am, Cora Hawkins's daughter, the child who integrated that white school, the woman who educated 3rd graders for 35 years and transformed hundreds of lives, the person who survived everything this world deployed against her and emerged stronger. I leaned forward, palms flat on the table. You chose the wrong woman to underestimate. Silence consumed the room. Finally, Richard Garrison spoke. Mr. Mitchell, I strongly advise accepting this settlement. Harold looked toward Terence. Terence studied the floor. Fine, Harold whispered. I'll sign. Actual signatures occurred 1 week later. Denise prepared the final divorce decree, every provision specified in legal terminology. Harold would receive $155,000 for his house share, payable within 30 days. He would reimburse me $13,000 for dissipated funds. We'd each retain our pensions. Retirement accounts split equally. Everything else, my inheritance, my house, my dignity, remained mine. Harold signed without uttering a word. His hands trembled visibly. When it concluded, he looked at me one final time. Dollars, I know you won't believe this, but I did love you. For a long time, I genuinely did. I believe you, I replied, but love proves insufficient without respect. And you stopped respecting me years ago when you started viewing me as someone to manage rather than cherish. When you began planning my future without consulting me about my desires, when you chose him over our family. Harold stood. Where am I supposed to go? That's no longer my concern. He walked out of Denise's office. I watched him go. Watched 41 years exit through that door, and I remained completely dry-eyed. 7 months have passed. I'm sitting on my porch swing this Sunday morning, early fall settling over Charlotte. Air carries that crisp edge. Sky displays that perfect Carolina blue only autumn provides. My roses are blooming one final time before winter claims them. I purchased Harold's house share using inheritance funds exactly as Denise planned. Paid him $155,000. He relocated to South Carolina, living with his brother now. Last report has him working part-time at an O'Reilly Auto Parts, occupying a 1-bedroom apartment. Terrence Johnson is back in Illinois. Parole violation earned him return passage. Jasmine's divorce finalized, marriage declared legally void due to fraud. She reclaimed her maiden name, reclaimed her life. This house belongs entirely to me now. Changed the locks the day divorce became final. Painted the bedroom soft sage green, a color Harold always despised. Converted his man cave into a reading room with custom bookshelves and a comfortable chair positioned beside the window. The garden flourishes. Planted new roses this spring, peach-colored varieties Vivian would have adored. Every morning I take my coffee out here, watching sunrise paint my flowers in golden light. I'm not wealthy, but I'm secure. Pension provides $2,600 monthly. Inheritance remains invested, still growing, approximately $545,000 now. I withdraw small amounts annually supplementing pension income. Mostly I let it compound. Security for my future. Security nobody can strip away. Jasmine and I are rebuilding what was damaged. Progress comes slowly. Hurt still lingers at questions about why she didn't confide her suspicions earlier, why she went along with nursing home discussions. But we're working through it. She comes for Sunday dinner now, just the two of us. We cook together, eat together, talk about everything and nothing. She's seeing a therapist, processing the trauma. So am I. Last month she shared news. She's dating someone new, a woman this time, an attorney she met through professional connections. I think I'm finished with men for a while, Mama, she said. I laughed and told her to bring this woman to Sunday dinner whenever she's ready. Mount Calvary rallied around me once truth emerged. Pastor Williams delivered a sermon about forgiveness and forward movement, but also about accountability and refusing to enable sin. Sister Dorothy organized a weekly prayer circle for me. People I barely recognized brought casseroles and pound cakes, offered yard work assistance, sat with me when loneliness pressed too heavily. Patricia visits twice weekly. We drink tea, watch our programs, exchange church gossip. She keeps promoting her cousin Eugene Widower, who moved to Charlotte last year. Pat, I'm 65 years old, I told her. I'm finished with men. Girl, you're not deceased. Eugene's a quality man, retired firefighter, owns his home, makes bread pudding that'll make you weep. Maybe eventually, not yet. For now, I'm learning to exist alone without feeling lonely. Learning to be Dolores Mitchell again. No, Dolores Hawkins. I reclaimed my maiden name, felt appropriate. I started volunteering at Jefferson Elementary, my former school, tutoring children struggling with reading, watching comprehension suddenly illuminate their faces that never loses its magic. I joined a book club with fellow retired educators. Monthly meetings, wine, literary discussions, life discussions. These women understand. They know what rebuilding yourself past 60 requires. I enrolled in a pottery class at the community center. Turns out I possess zero talent for it. I don't care. Brings me joy, it's mine. 3 weeks ago I experienced what I call my clarity moment. Sitting on this same porch swing, morning coffee in hand when understanding washed over me. I was happy. Not happy despite everything that occurred. Not happy because I'd moved past it or gotten over it. Happy because I'd chosen myself, because I'd fought for myself, because I'd refused to disappear. Pain still lives inside me, probably always will. 41 years don't simply evaporate. Moments still arrive when tears come, when rage flares, when I question what I could have done differently. But mostly I have moments like this one. Peaceful moments, powerful moments. Moments when I survey my garden, my house, my life and think this belongs to me. I built this, I protected this, I earned this. Jasmine called yesterday. Mama, I've been thinking about Grandma Cora, about her strength, how she never let anyone break her spirit. That's absolutely true, I said. I want to be like that, like her, like you. My heart swelled until it ached. Baby, you already are. You walked away from a man who deceived you. You started fresh. You're constructing a new life. That's strength. I learned it watching you, she said softly. How you handled everything with Daddy and Terrence. How you didn't just survive, you won. You taught me we don't have to accept less than we deserve. After we hung up, I sat with those words a long while. I won, did I lost my husband. Damaged my relationship with my daughter. Had my entire existence inverted. But I gained something too, myself. The Dolores who abandoned college to care for Harold, she wouldn't have fought back. She would have accepted the nursing home arrangement. Convinced herself it was best, faded quietly into the margins of other people's lives. But the Dolores occupying this porch swing, she knows her worth, knows her power, knows she deserves more than crumbs from people who should have been offering the entire feast. Do I experience loneliness sometimes? Yes. Do I miss having a partner? Occasionally. Do I regret fighting for myself? Not for one single second. If you've journeyed with me this far, thank you. I understand this story lacks prettiness, lacks the fairy tale we all secretly want, but it's truth, and maybe someone somewhere needed to hear it. If you're experiencing something similar, if someone you love is trying to diminish you, convince you that you're the problem, place you somewhere you don't belong, hear me clearly. You are not too old to begin again. You are not too exhausted to fight back. You are not obligated to sacrifice yourself for people unwilling to sacrifice for you. My mama survived Jim Crow. Her mama survived worse. I survived a cheating husband, a lying son-in-law, and betrayal from people I trusted most. If we can survive all that, we can survive anything. They tried to write my ending for me, tried to box me up literally and determine my future without my input, tried to make me disappear so they could claim the life they wanted. But I seized that pen directly from their hands and authored my own story. Is it lonely sometimes? Yes, but lonely beats betrayed, lonely beats diminished, lonely beats living a lie. To all my sisters out there, especially my black sisters who understand what it means to be underestimated, overlooked, pushed aside, don't let anybody make you disappear. Not your husband, not your children, not anybody. You matter, your life matters, your happiness matters. And if people surrounding you can't recognize that, they don't deserve space in your story. My name is Dolores Ann Hawkins. I'm 65 years old. I taught third grade for 35 years. I integrated a white school when I was 6 years old. I survived poverty, racism, betrayal, and heartbreak, and I'm still here, still standing, still thriving. Harold wanted to warehouse me in a nursing home. Terrence wanted to steal my money. Both wanted me out of their way. Instead, I put them exactly where they belonged. And honey, I'm not going anywhere. This is my house, my garden, my life, my story, and it's just getting started.